Since May of 2020, myself and thousands of families have demanded answers and accountability into why those deadly decisions were made. The former Governor Andrew Cuomo, his administration, and the New York State Health Department tried to cover it up.
For many years, millions of viewers have been familiar with Janice Dean's radiant smile bringing sunshine to the screen. But when the studio lights faded at the age of 55, her life was struck by a devastating storm that no radar could have predicted. Behind the glamour of television lies a silent double tragedy, a hidden corner so painful that it breaks the will of even the most resilient individuals. That is a life and death struggle in the shadows that she was forced to face on her own. What happened to make that woman shed tears behind the lens? Let us flip through the investigative report right below to understand why her story at the age of 55 makes millions of hearts choke with emotion. In the spring of 2020, New York became the global epicenter with the number of deaths skyrocketing every day. Amid the health crisis, Governor Andrew Cuomo issued an executive order that sparked fierce public controversy. The executive order signed on March 25th, 2020 mandated that nursing homes must readmit or accept new patients testing positive for the virus. The administration's goal was to free up hospital beds for the front lines. The decision immediately met with opposition from experts due to the exceptionally high risk of cross-infection. Introducing the pathogen into an environment concentrated with elderly people inadvertently turned these places into devastating hotbeds of disease. Among the thousands of affected victims was Mr. Mickey Newman, the father-in-law of journalist Janice Dean. A former worker suffering from dementia, he was being cared for at a rehabilitation nursing home. The tragedy unfolded extremely swiftly during the final days of March 2020. On March 29th, firefighter Sean Newman received an emergency call from the nursing facility informing him of his father's critical condition. The medical facility reported that Mr. Mickey Newman suddenly developed a high fever and experienced severe respiratory distress symptoms. Exactly 3 hours after that brief notification, he drew his last breath without any family members by his side. Due to the strict lockdown, the family was completely helpless and unable to see their father one last time. Sean Newman broke down in tears over the phone, trying to suppress his grief to break the devastating news to his mother, who was isolated at a different facility. The specter of the pandemic continued to surround her mother-in-law, Mrs. D. Newman, at an independent living facility. In early April 2020, Sean Newman went to his mother's residence to bring flowers along with keepsake photographs of his father. But strict pandemic regulations stopped the son right at the reception desk. The report captured the heartbreaking moment when he was only allowed to look at his mother from a distance of over 3 meters through the building's frosted glass. Mother and son stood looking at each other, choking with tears through the glass door in the utter helplessness of the social distancing order. That was also the last time Sean Newman saw his mother in person while she was still lucid. A few days later, the facility announced that Mrs. D had contracted the virus, showing symptoms of a continuous cough and a sore throat. In her brief, final phone call with her son, she used her last ounce of strength to remind him to buy Easter gifts for her grandchildren. Her worsening condition forced medical staff to transfer her to the hospital for emergency treatment. On April 13, 2020, Mrs. D. Newman passed away, completing the tragedy of Janice losing both her father-in-law and mother-in-law in just 15 days. The double loss plunged Janice Dean's family into a state of profound emotional collapse. Strict regulations completely banned full funerals, stripping the living of the right to embrace one another and say goodbye. Amid public confusion over the actual death toll, Janice Dean decided to speak out. She furiously declared publicly to the media, "They died alone without a hand to hold or a family member to say goodbye." The pain intensified when the family discovered that Mrs. D's death was initially excluded from the nursing home's death toll. The state government exploited her passing at the hospital as a data loophole to polish its reports. The pain of losing 2 close family members in less than 2 weeks caused Janice Dean's family to completely collapse. But when she saw the state governor appear on national talk shows laughing and self-complacently writing a book to praise his own pandemic-fighting merits, Janice realized that this pain was not caused by a natural disaster, but was a man-made crime that needed to be brought to light. The Crusade. Following the double tragedy of loss in 2020, Janice Dean shed her title as an entertainment reporter to embark on a grueling legal battle. The female journalist appeared continuously on television and wrote fierce essays exposing the executive order. She publicly criticized the New York administration's policy for directly turning nursing homes into death traps. Janice likened the decision to force the admission of virus-infected patients to bringing fire to burn down dry grassland. In the face of mounting criticism, Governor Andrew Cuomo's office immediately activated its media apparatus to smear the Fox News reporter. State officials sought to isolate her by directing public attention to the limited expertise of a weather anchor. A spokesperson for the governor's office issued a ruthless official statement to the press aimed at silencing her complaints. The state administration asserted, Janice Dean is not a credible source on anything except weather. Subsequently, journalistic investigations exposed a sophisticated smear campaign taking place behind the political scenes of Albany. Leaked documents showed that the governor's younger brother, Chris Cuomo of CNN, participated in the planning. Records confirm that Chris Cuomo's team used heavily insulting language, targeting Janice Dean in private messages. They made every effort to exploit her personal information to discredit her and alleviate political pressure on the state. The confrontation entered a new phase in January 2021 when an independent judicial watchdog stepped in. New York Attorney General Letitia James officially released a shocking investigative report spanning dozens of pages. The judicial document confirmed that Governor Cuomo's administration deliberately concealed and underreported the actual number of casualties in nursing homes by up to 50%. The true death toll was determined by investigators to have surpassed the milestone of 15,000 victims. The deception was further exposed when an audio recording of an internal state government meeting leaked to the public media. On the tape, the governor's chief of staff, Melissa DeRosa, admitted to this act of data manipulation. DeRosa explained that the administration proactively froze the data out of concern that the Federal Department of Justice under Trump would investigate. This shocking revelation immediately fueled the flames of outrage from the victims' families. Under the combined pressure of the nursing home scandal and successive allegations of official misconduct, the Cuomo empire collapsed. In August of 2021, Andrew Cuomo was forced to announce his resignation as state governor in disgrace. Even though her opponent had resigned, Janice Dean steadfastly refused to stop as long as justice was not fully served. She continued to push federal legislative bodies to expand the scope of the healthcare accountability investigation. The next milestone was set on May 17, 2023 in the capital city of Washington. The female reporter stepped forward to testify publicly before the U.S. House Oversight Committee to represent thousands of elderly citizens who passed away during the pandemic. In front of the lawmakers, Janice could not hold back her tears as she recounted the lonely deaths of her parents-in-law. She powerfully declared before the panel, "I am here today because 15,000 seniors don't have a voice, but they have a family." The journey culminated in September 2024 when the Select Subcommittee on the Coronavirus Pandemic summoned Andrew Cuomo to testify. Legislative evidence proved that Cuomo himself had personally edited and excised the deadly data from the report. The U.S. House of Representatives subsequently officially referred the file to the Department of Justice requesting criminal prosecution of Andrew Cuomo for lying to Congress. This was a resounding victory that affirmed the righteousness of Janice Dean's long-drawn-out battle. After 4 grueling years, the wheels of justice finally crushed the political career of the powerful man. But every victory comes at a heavy price. As the investigative documents closed, that resilient woman returned to reality at the milestone of age 55, where she had to face another devastating crisis quietly unfolding within her very bones. The legacy of the storm. Entering 2025, Janice Dean's journey for justice reached a historic turning point. The efforts of the 55-year-old woman did not just stop at the media, but transformed into federal legal documents. The greatest milestone was established in May 2025 when the U.S. Department of Justice officially opened a criminal investigation targeting former Governor Andrew Cuomo, this federal move marked the highest legal victory in the entire battle. The investigative agency focused on allegations that Mr. Cuomo had provided false testimony before the United States Congress. The official federal investigation was triggered following feedback regarding the handling of the healthcare crisis. Legislative records from the Select Subcommittee pointed out evidence of casualty data being manipulated or concealed. The criminal investigation shed light on the falsified reports aimed at mitigating management accountability for nursing facilities. For Janice Dean's family, this federal file was the ultimate answer to the loss of their own flesh and blood years ago. The legal process proved that her efforts to expose the lies finally brought concrete results. While achieving a legislative victory, the price paid with the female journalist's health was extremely high. The grueling crusade lasting half a decade against political pressure severely ravaged her physical condition. On November 12, 2025, the public suddenly noticed her absence on Fox and Friends. The famous weather anchor announced her decision to temporarily step away from the small screen and social media platforms. The reason for her leave was clearly explained to avoid public speculation. Janice Dean candidly confided, "I've always been upfront and honest about my life, and I felt I owed you an explanation of my absence, but I will be back." The consequences of prolonged stress triggered a dangerous flare-up of multiple sclerosis. The severely damaged nervous system caused her body to become exhausted, requiring intensive therapy and restorative rest. To heal the damage and seek spiritual release, she and her husband took a trip far away. In a message to her fans, she shared, "I'm okay, but I've had some health issues that require rest and time to heal." The press reported that the destination chosen for this medical and spiritual recovery journey was the capital city of Rome. The trip, taking place in early 2026, helped the couple find peace again, after years filled with legal turmoil. In Italy, the female journalist focused entirely on recovering her physical health to continue caring for her family. She viewed spiritual balance as the core element to halt the progression of the incurable disease. Standing at the milestone of age 55 with an exhausted body but an unyielding will, Janice Dean's story leaves a great question about the source of her strength. To understand how this woman accumulated the inner strength to confront adversity, the investigative journey needs to turn back time to the early chapters of her life. That was the period before the glamour of major television networks in New York called her name, where a Canadian girl began her journey with arduous steps. The beginning of glamour. Janice Dean was born on May 9, 1970 in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Later, she grew up in Ottawa and spent her teenage years completely detached from the spotlight of American television. To seek greater opportunities, she decided to leave her homeland of Canada for the American market. In Houston, Texas, she worked across a series of local radio stations, such as KODA-FM, KKBQ-FM, and KLDE-FM to assert her capabilities. The female journalist's career turned to a new chapter when she moved to New York, the largest media hub in the United States. She admitted that she faced a lot of loneliness at that time. "I had just moved to New York from Canada with no family, no friends, and no boyfriend." She took on the position of news editor for the program Imus in the Morning on WFAN-AM and MSNBC. But the media environment in New York at that time harbored intense competitive pressures and a toxic culture. Veteran host Don Imus was famous for his autocratic and harsh management style. He frequently mocked the professional competence as well as the appearance of female colleagues right on the public airwaves. The pressure to maintain a youthful appearance in front of the camera lens pushed her into a risky decision. Janice Dean chose to undergo a cosmetic surgery procedure using laser technology and facial dermal fillers. Unfortunately, this medical procedure suffered serious complications due to a technical error by the performing facility. Her face became swollen and severely deformed, directly threatening her ability to appear on television broadcasts. This cosmetic complication incident almost stripped away the entire career she had built. She faced the risk of being quietly dismissed when managers evaluated her appearance as not meeting broadcasting standards. In spite of the barriers, she persistently sought opportunities. January 2004 marked a major milestone when she officially joined Fox News Channel as a daytime weather reporter. At Fox News, her capability was quickly asserted through live broadcasts. She constantly honed her meteorological expertise to cast off the prejudice of being a woman who merely read a weather script. Recognition came in 2009 when she earned a certification from the American Meteorological Society. This certificate affirmed her capability to deliver accurate information instead of her mere previous title. But right at the moment when the brightest glamour called her name, a silent medical crisis began to take root. This severe health sentence initiated a chain of tragedies hidden for many long years. A hidden medical sentence. The shocking medical crisis struck one morning in 2005 while Janice Dean was preparing for her shift at Fox News. The meteorologist suddenly woke up and found herself bedridden, completely losing the ability to move on her own. Her entire thigh area and both feet were completely paralyzed, unable to feel the ground beneath her feet. Accompanying this sudden motor decline was a state of severe physical exhaustion of unknown cause. Doctors in New York immediately conducted a series of specialized tests, including magnetic resonance imaging of the brain. The MRI results displayed a dense series of myelin lesions, appearing across both the patient's brain and spinal cord. To reach a final conclusion, a painful lumbar puncture was performed to search for characteristic proteins. Janice officially received the sentence of relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis, an autoimmune disease that ravages the nervous system. Receiving a critical medical sentence while her career was at its peak, Janice Dean's first reaction was intense panic. She decided to keep this illness diagnosis information secret from Fox News management for a long time. In the harsh television environment, an anchor facing the risk of being in a wheelchair was a massive professional hazard. Janice feared that health prejudice would cause her to be stripped of her broadcasting rights and receive a quiet dismissal from the network. In the midst of the medical crisis storm, a personal turning point appeared, bringing her a solid emotional anchor. In 2007, Janice Dean officially married Sean Newman, a brave firefighter belonging to the New York City Fire Department. The appearance of her firefighter husband completely changed the landscape of her battle against the illness. Sean Newman was not only a life partner, but became a protector, directly supporting her during times of declining health. Medical research indicates that the pregnancy process helps temporarily suppress the flare-up symptoms of this incurable disease. Their home welcomed miracles when she gave birth to 2 sons, in succession to Matthew in 2009 and Theodore in 2011. After fulfilling her maternal calling, Janice decided to stop chemical injections to switch to natural methods. She adopted a strict diet, completely cutting out gluten and fat to control her autoimmune disease on her own. Throughout that arduous journey, her parents-in-law, Mr. Mickey Newman and Mrs. D. Newman, always stood side by side to protect her. Their unconditional care became a massive source of spiritual energy for Janice to overcome adversity. In 2019, she decided to make the truth public through her memoir, Mostly Sunny, which entered the New York Times bestseller list. She wrote, "I wanted to show people that you can still have a beautiful life even after a devastating diagnosis." For nearly 15 years, with extraordinary resilience and the boundless love of the Newman family, Janice Dean pushed back the specter of the cruel neurological disease. Janice Dean's journey for justice at the age of 55 is a powerful affirmation of the strength of truth before dark power. This investigative story is not only a personal tragedy, but also a profound lesson in civic spirit. If you appreciate Janice Dean's resilience and want to support authentic investigative reports, please press the channel subscription button today. Your companionship gives us more motivation to spread stories of justice.